My name is Brad Scott, and we're down here on the shore of Myrtle Grove Sound. Behind me here, we have 170,000 oysters, the first of another 500,000 that we hope to run through this shellfish nursery that I have here. This message today is for Governor Perdue, Secretary Freeman, and Chairman Bazell of the Marine Fisheries Commission. I'd like to wash my stuff for just a moment and let Tim come in here a little closer so you can see how tiny the stuff is that we're working with. This is our second washing of the day. This screen is upwelling. What we're doing is we're dumping water into the big vessel. In order for the water to exit, it has to come up through this screen and exit out this hole here, or these holes, and exit out the bottom of the table and goes on out. Actually, these seed are pretty big, but that's how small they are. Let's see, well, you see the size of my hand. We'll throw a dime down there just for effect. This stuff is awful small, and tomorrow we're going to sieve the big stuff out of this and leave the smallest stuff. One of the problems that I have with this location here is all the mud that I'm having to work with. Silt is a problem for oysters, whereas a clam can ride up and down it. This is my second washing of the day. Usually we wash them at least 3 times a day so they have a chance to feed on seawater instead of just mud. The fresh water doesn't hurt to put on them, to rinse them down and get the mud out of them. This isn't a long operation, but it does require me having to make 2 or 3 trips a day down here to do this. And that totals about 20 miles of travel a day to get back to this location. Okay, Tim, this is the smallest stuff I have. Now I'll go get a silo over there of these 750 ones to show you how big they are. These oysters have been in here about 2 weeks now.
Those have been in there for 2 weeks?
Everything in here.
Okay.
Well, maybe almost 3 weeks. These oysters were sieved out of that first tray I showed you. They were sieved with a 3.3 millimeter sieve, which makes these 4 to 6s in the industry, is what they would say. Now the goal, they stay in here until they sieve them again. The next sieve gives us a 9 to 10 millimeter seed at a minimum. And this is the goal of this shellfish nursery, is to grow seed this size. This seed is either ready for sale or to be planted on my lease. That is the entire goal of this operation here. This.
So it's not a grow out operation at all?
It's not a grow out operation. This is a nursery. I'm very fortunate to have this location. We live in an urban area. You see all the houses up and down the waterway. Most of this area is closed to shellfishing. And when they say it's closed to shellfishing, they mean it's closed to go out and harvest and either sell or eat and consume. It has nothing to do with seed this size. But that is the problem that I have. Marine Fisheries and Shellfish Sanitation wants to treat these tiny animals as if we were going to have an oyster roast today. And clearly, you've seen how the size that we're dealing with, that is not going to be the case. I believe in North Carolina we have a unique opportunity now to take oysters and go somewhere in a hurry in a big way. And why I say that is, we have a new hatchery that's been established up in Bear Creek near Swansboro. He has got the license for sterile male oysters, if I'm understanding the genetics right. And when he breeds them, what we have is generic sterile oyster. These oysters here have every potential to be market size a year from now, or perhaps even less. That is what is exciting that's going on right now in North Carolina, our new hatchery. But our new hatchery needs customers. He wants to grow eyed larvae, which eyed larvae is when oysters are swimming. He doesn't want to do this business. With these 4 raceways here, I could probably grow at any one time, maybe have a 500,000 oysters in here this size or so. But the goal is to get them out of here, sold, on the lease, whatever they're going to do. As a matter of fact, I already have one customer for 100,000 of these. I'm going to sell him those out of that 400,000 that we're going to buy in a couple of weeks. I've had an issue here that I've kept alive since 2008, and that's the ability to be able to go to the water anywhere where you can get access and have electricity. It'd be convenient for you and it'd be secure. This is an issue I champion not only for myself, but for the industry as a whole here in North Carolina. If you look at a sanitation map, say the folks at Wanchese or whatever. Now Wanchese would be a wonderful place to grow these oysters, but the shellfish sanitation maps have all the area closed. Had I not worked at a hatchery in South Carolina that was in polluted water, or prohibited, more accurately, prohibited from the direct marketing of shellfish, I would not have been able to stay behind this issue of us in this state being able to use prohibited water for the nursery of shellfish. Now, when I was first denied a permit, I appealed it to the Marine Fisheries Commission. I held up my little piece of string and said, this is what they sit on and this is what I'm trying to do. And they allow this activity in Virginia and they allow it in South Carolina, and the FDA permits it through the Interstate Shellfish Sanitation Conference. And it was kind of a convoluted message, but they understood there was something wrong with me not being able to use prohibited water to do this activity in. And the way the FDA addresses this issue in the matters of aquaculture, it says that hatcheries and nurseries are exempt from sanitation rules. The very rules that the Division of Marine Fisheries is trying to overwhelm me with are the ones that the FDA has exempted this industry from. I have fixed a little graphic to illustrate my point. Oh, well, let me back up. The permit denial was upheld because in that brief moment, the Marine Fisheries Commission could not fix the issue. But they did pass a motion requesting that the division adopt a policy to address my issue. They said we didn't need a rule, we didn't need a law, we just needed a policy that would address my issue. Time went on and nothing happened, and I finally reminded the division that we needed a policy, and they gave me one. It really raised the bar real high. It made it impossible for me to find convenient, accessible, secure location for what I do. This is a beautiful spot. It's not good for what we're doing. There's just too much mud, too much travel, too much work. I need the ability to look closer to home for my arrangement here. Or who knows, maybe you can find a setup where we have a year-round arrangement where we don't have to be mounted on a boat trailer and be mobile. Just recently, the state of Maryland put out a video of a guy, and you can find it on YouTube at search Maryland Upweller, and you see a guy doing exactly what I was trying to do. Do this kind of operation in closed waters of a marina, which there's one near my house, and it would have been a perfect setup for me. In the same time frame that North Carolina was saying no, Maryland turned the tables on their rules and came up with an arrangement that allowed nurseries in convenient water. I have made a little graph. I have gone state by state and called each state, growers there, and asked them, could they use prohibited waters for the nursery of their tiny shellfish? And here's my little graph. I apologize for my penmanship, but I think my little chart here of the East Coast of the United States makes my point. All the states on the East Coast allow their shellfish culture industries to use prohibited water for the nursery and hatchery of shellfish. The only exception is Delaware, and the only reason Delaware is an exception here, they don't have any shellfish growers yet. But ironically, they do allow their citizens to grow oysters under their docks in prohibited water. There's over 100 growers doing that there. So I suspect that Delaware would address this issue if they had the opportunity. My hope is that this video will draw attention to this issue, seeing the tiny shellfish that we're dealing with, recognition of the fact that the FDA exempts shellfish that is 1/10 its market weight and 6 months from harvest from the sanitary rules. This map illustrates all the states that have stepped back and looked at this issue, and we see what answer they arrived at. There is one exception, that is our state. It's time for that to change. It's time for North Carolina to go green. It's time to go green for jobs. It's time to go green for the environment. It's time to go green for the shellfish culture industry. We have the framework in this state for a vibrant shellfish culture industry. There's just a couple little things that need tweaking, and this is one of them. As I said, I've championed this issue not only for myself, but for my industry and for the state. There are going to be people who see this, who are going to look at this raceway and say, you know, by golly, I can do that. They don't need to have to overcome the challenge of getting to the water in the way that I have been challenged in my endeavors. The tide is not high, it's fairly high right now, but on low water, my suction pipe is 300 feet out there, and it's in knee-deep water on low water. Now look what
Well, there's a problem right there.
That's it. That's it. That's where all my mud comes from, if not a tugboat. A hollow breaker will break over my suction pipe and send me a nice blast of mud up here.
Jet skis, all of it. But if you were at a location where this was not an issue,
Oh, up a creek there is no boat traffic like this. Everything is settled down. The creek is my settling pond instead of my oysters.
yep. And this is a weekday, and here goes yet another one.
Oh, well, this is nothing. You ought to see it on the weekend.
Right.
My partner Tom came an hour and a half behind me and washed on Saturday or Saturday. He didn't realize I'd already been here. That's how much mud had gotten back on top of my oysters. They can't live on mud.
What do they eat?
They eat algae out of the water, and that mud competes with that algae. They're sucking it all in, and they're getting the algae diluted with silt. For all I know, my oysters are growing part-time. Once that mud settles in on them, maybe they shut down and don't do anything. Maybe I'm growing slow because of what I'm having to fight. Now, if this were my property, there would be a technical solution to this. But it's not my property. I'm temporary here. It's part-time. I can't make the investment to make this a full-time location. Tim, I can't wait for us to come back when I've got 10 of these trays in here like this, ready to go to the lease. And we have 500,000 oysters in here on the ground floor and 500,000 on upstairs. And we can do some great things here now. I got a lot of room here to go. We can do it.
And this is
And
just
by the
one
way,
unit.
I need some customers too. So if you've been thinking about trying some oysters, 20,000, 50,000, call Alan Barton. He'll refer you to me, Bear Creek Shellfish Hatchery. He's already referred me one customer. Well, my name's Brad Scott, or you can track me down. You want to try a handful of oysters? We're going to have them here. And if you're up in Wanchese or something like that, give me a call. I'll tell you what I know, what you need to do to get yourself up and running. You got crab shedding tables up there. You can